speed limit changes.
Now the speed limit changes.
Now, I think, do we have some legal advice on this one?
Yeah.
Would you like to come to the table as well?
So just while we're waiting for...
I think there's a difference of view as to what can and can't be done, so I'd like to sort of surface that.
I think we've had a discussion where in alignment, I have a
Well,
I'll just head back.
what we didn't...
You didn't have one to me.
A point that I'd really like to make is that the staff recommendations went out for consultation, but the feedback that came from those staff recommendations before it came, the report came to our board, and the consultation showed that there was quite a willingness of people who lived in some of these streets, like for example Hallswell Junction Road, that did want the speed limit brought down to what our community board has recommended. So, and we weren't aware at the time of the cross-boundary issues with Selwyn District Council and the Christchurch City Council. So, rightly or wrongly, we weren't that aware of that matter at our community board meeting when we made these amendments to the staff's recommendation.
Say that again. So what weren't you aware of?
We weren't aware that Quaifs Road and Marshes Road were boundary roads between the Christchurch City Council and Selwyn District Council. There's a memo that came out on the 7th of September from Ryan, pointing out that there has been no prior agreement to vary some of these speed limits with the Selwyn District Council. So we weren't aware of that when we did make the recommendations, but we did listen to the community, and the Hallswell Residents Association and the Awatea Residents Association area have been very, 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 very vocal for many years, but we don't very often, it's a 3-year cycle when we get to actually review speed limits. Isn't it, Ryan?
Historically, they've been reviewed on a two-year cycle.
Yeah. So that's where it, and we have been gradually bringing these speed limits down. But with the rapid expansion of and development in the Hallswell area and the Knightstream Longhurst area, especially, as that's where we wanted to focus. So. And we felt that some of the speed limits that were being proposed, because they did actually meet the criteria of the day, as far as what you can and can't do, that we've been subsequently, made well aware of, is that we still felt for safety reasons and common sense, from a community board point of view, and listening to the community, that we felt obliged to actually make those recommendations. So it hasn't, we weren't just saying, just let's do it. There was quite a lot of thought and logic from the submissions and the community feedback that we've got for that.
It was more fundamental than that. We have in front of us on pages 289 through to 291 the staff recommendations on all of these streets. So the recommendation from the staff relates to all of those streets.
Yes.
The board recommendation, after listening to what the community wanted, and it's been constant advocacy of the Riccarton Wigram Community Board to lower speeds in an area that is developing very quickly, a la Dunlop's Road, to residential type limits. All we've done is change 4 numbers in those staff recommendations. So if we go back to the staff recommendations, we are actually making a call on those streets anyway. So it's not like we've suddenly added new recommendations, we're simply lowering the speed limit on 4 of them. Now I understand from this memo that came out, which wasn't said at the community board, but which came out yesterday late, that 2 of these are boundary roads with Selwyn District and we have to get their permission. Can't we just ask their permission? Wouldn't that do the trick?
So, if I go back a step to the staff recommendations, part of the issue here is that to make the changes that we made, in some cases we proposed quite a small change to a long street. And to do that legally, we had to revoke everything that's on the street and put things back in a slightly different way. And so if you take Marshes Road, which is an extreme case, we made a small change to 100 metres of the road at one end, but we had to revoke everything, which is a 5 kilometre long road. And the crux of the issue is that the change that's brought about through the Riccarton Wigram amendment changes the 5 kilometre long section, when all that was consulted on was a small 100 metre section at one end. And if you looked at the maps that went out to consultation, they show no changes proposed. So if anything, the crux of the issue being the consultation that we did in essence highlighted that there wasn't a change proposed to some of these roads, and that's a lot of the reason why there is an issue with the consultation that's occurred for the Riccarton Wigram changes.
Can I just ask on that one, Ryan? Wasn't the extra area, currently a 50k zone anyway, and has been so for some months?
You might be referring to Hawesville Junction
Yes,
Road.
I am, yes.
So, okay, so just to explain the Hawesville Junction Road resolution, much of Hawesville Junction Road at the moment is 60 kilometres per hour. There's a section that the speed limit is currently 80 kilometres an hour. There's been some new development that's occurred on that, and as a result staff have held that at 60 kilometres per hour under TMP, and the staff recommendation is to essentially adopt that temporary 60 such that all of Hawesville Junction Road has a consistent 60 kilometre per hour speed limit. The Riccarton Wigram recommendation is to change the whole of Hawesville Junction Road, including the bit that's currently 80 and the bit that's currently 60, change the whole of that to 50 kilometres per hour. We have only done consultation on the smallest section that's 80 kilometres per hour currently. If I go back to Councillor Buck's original question about the issue with the boundary roads, I notified Selwyn District Council of the fact that there's a community board recommendation to change the speed limit, and their advice is consistent with our advice, which would be that for a speed limit on a boundary road to be legally effective, it requires a matching resolution from both councils. So if council today...
Do you have a resolution from them for the original consultation?
No, because the reason for that is the changes that fall under the staff recommended don't change the sections that are boundary roads. It's only occurred as a result of the extensions through the Riccarton Wigram amendment that's brought into play the changes adjacent to boundary roads. So essentially, it puts the speed limit in a very unenforceable situation where there's basically two speed limits on these roads, and it doesn't make sense not to have the conversation before the speed limit is changed.
So how do we fix this? So do we go back out for another consultation and engage Selwyn in that process?
Absolutely, that's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Incidentally, there's an opportunity here. It's been brought to our attention after this consultation that there's another change on Sparks Road sought by a member of the Riccarton Wigram Community Board. If we did some extra consultation, it would actually introduce an opportunity to bring that into play as well.
Yeah. So is that a solution?
Just in relation to the recommendation that you've got at the bottom of the recommendation, that staff undertake additional consultation on the speed limit on those 4 roads and then Sparks Road. Have you got a timeline around that, Ryan?
Because of the election, we think that we could do that consultation and be back to the first board meeting
After the election.
In November, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's a good resolve. So, what is the wording of a resolution that would achieve that council adopt the staff recommendation for this setting. That staff undertake additional consultation on the speed limit, but we're accepting the speed limits in the Riccarton Wigram ward, are we?
That council adopt the staff recommendation for the setting of the speed limits in the Riccarton ward in the meantime, or whatever, and then we let staff
undertake additional consultation on the speed limit of Hallswell Junction Road as opposed to Haswell, and Quaifs Road, Marshes Road, and Wincop's Road, west of Marshes Road.
That's right.
And add Sparks.
And are people
and report back to the
Riccarton Wigram
community board by.
It'll be the Riccarton Wigram Hallsville. Riccarton Hornby Hallsville.
But does that mean that we're adopting the changes that were decided by the community that they wanted to be lower?
No, it means that we're adopting the staff recommendations which don't go as far as what the community want.
Yeah, so that
in the interim.
So we're going to change the speed limit potentially twice.
Keep lowering it.
Ryan's recommendation on the bottom of his memo, dated yesterday, that the council adopt the staff recommendation and not the Riccarton Wigram Community Board's amended recommendation, and that staff undertake additional consultation on the speed limit of Hallsville Junction Road, Quaifs Road, Marshes Road and Wincop's Road west of Marshes, and with the addition of Sparks has just been mentioned to be thrown in there. So I think that's the direction that staff.
But it needs, it says and report back to the community board, but I actually think that we need to be saying additional consultation on a further reduced speed limit on these, because we're asking you to do a specific task, which is the further consultation on a further reduced speed limit for these.
And the time frame would be much appreciated.
And report back to the community board by the end of November 2016.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because there are a whole pile of other ones as well.
Will they actually have a meeting a formal meeting by the
mid-November?
Yeah, but that's the swearing in.
Okay, before
the end of December.
Before December, that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before the end of December 2016.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. And thanks for your help with that, because it was going to be a tricky one, so really appreciate that.
Thanks.
Good. All right, so that's moved by Vicky Butt, seconded by Jimmy Chen.
Yes.
I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.